All right, boils and ghouls. Now, I know I still got to record Black Christmas 2006 because I already have the video ready for the original. I'm just not in the mood to watch that right now. Now, this movie, The Sacrament, from Ty West from 2013, and I mean, nobody complains about this ever, so I don't know why I'm even bringing it up. This is the type of movie. This has such a great and eerie atmosphere. This is the lighting we're going with. And like I said, no one brings this up. There isn't really anything that Ty West has done that I don't absolutely love. Of course, excluding Cabin Fever 2, whatever the tagline is for that. He didn't even want to do that movie. It's awful. So I don't even consider that when talking Ty West. The House of the Devil is such a great movie. The Innkeepers is probably my favorite. With this one would probably be tied for my two favorite earlier Ty West films. All the shorts and work that he's done on the VHS series, everything this man has done. And then he just blew us away last year, and for me, they were the two best films of the year with Pearl and X. This guy's on fire. So there's nothing that Ty West has done, really, that I don't love. Now, I've mentioned a few times in all these videos in the last year and a half, fears, my main fears and stuff in life. And a lot of those were losing touch with reality or being lost, and at the least it could be very annoying, and the most it could be terrifying, and being in a building or mental asylum or prison or something held against your will. Those are big ass fears. But if I gotta say one of the most terrifying things that I can imagine, and it happens all the time to all of us because we're all surrounded by it every day, being around a bunch of insane people that you don't know what the hell they're capable of. And that's exactly what we get here in The Sacrament, since it involves this whole cult, which this movie is heavily, heavily inspired on Jim Jones and the whole Jonestown mass suicide with the cult and everything. I've looked into that cult, the story of it, and researched it a bit over the years, and there's a lot of stuff in this movie that is definitely just taken right from the actual incidents at Jonestown there, and that makes this movie hit even harder. But when you're around a group of people that are all crazy enough that they follow the words of one other person and they're willing to do anything for that person, that's one of the most terrifying situations I think that anybody can be in. And you're always just 1-2 steps away every single day from it happening, because there are a lot of insane people in the world. But when they all get together in a commune like this, that's why these things never work. Communes don't work. Self-sustaining living communities, places that try to get away from the world and isolate. We're all beautiful here and there's no racism or violence or anything. It's an impossible scenario to sustain long term without becoming a fucking cult, because humanity as a whole, we're just a violent species. So no matter how many people you have that you isolate yourself somewhere, you're still bringing the biggest factor with you, and that's being human. So this whole scenario never works, and that's why cults never work, and that's why all these major cult leaders and cults that we've had in the past, a lot of them end tragically. And this is one example with Jonestown and with this movie. This is such a great found footage film. And I only saw this maybe twice since it came out, until a few months ago. I rewatched it, and then it really went up a lot more for me. And then I watched it recently, and it's playing in the background like usual. It keeps, every time I watch this movie, it gets better and better and better. It's real hard to watch some of the scenes in this. But if you haven't seen The Sacrament by Ty West, I mean, this is produced by Eli Roth. Eli Roth pretty much gave Ty West complete creative control over this project, which is great to hear, and I'm glad that he did. Because, I mean, as much as I do like a lot of Eli Roth stuff, getting a movie from Ty West like this, but in a way that you'd be able to tell Roth's presence if that makes sense. So I'm glad he gave him complete control over his project here. So we have AJ Bowen in here. We have Joe Swanberg, basically all Ty West friends, and also friendly with Adam Wingard and Simon Barrett. Those two in this movie were also in Your Next and a few other projects of theirs. I like them. Like, they do a good job throughout this movie. It's not like great performances or anything. I mean, they're not great performances in the other things I've seen them in, but they carry the movie fine. So the plot for this, if for those of you who haven't seen it, it's found footage, and they're two Vice journalists, Sam and Jake. They end up having their co-worker Patrick, who's a photographer, who ends up telling them that his sister, who was a drug addict and went off to live in some, get help and then live in some sober living community, gets a weird message in the mail from her, and then they just feel like this is a story here, and they want to go down to this place that she's living at now and check it out and do a story on it. And it turns out being a fucking cult. Like, as culty as you can get, but that's the only thing you have to know going into this movie if you haven't seen it before. And like I said, if you are familiar with Jim Jones and his cult and everything at Jonestown, you will already know some things going in here. It's not going to be complete unfamiliar territory. But if you haven't seen it, check it out, because now we're going to just go through the whole movie here, like usual. So, I mean, their performances are fine. I forget her name, who plays Caroline, the sister of Patrick, the girl at the commune. I forget who plays her, but she does a good job. But Gene Jones, who plays father, like the Jim Jones equivalent in this movie, the cult leader, he absolutely destroys the role he has in this film. Like, he really sounds like a lunatic cult leader. He got into this role so well, man, that when they start getting to the later part of the movie, and he's giving his speech, and even the whole interview, we'll get to that, but that's awesome too. But the speech, when they're starting to commit suicide and stuff, some of it just sends chills down your spine. And again, because this is based off of true events in a way, it hits you even harder. But his performance is the best in this entire film. Like, you could take every other performance, stack them all together, and his performance still blows all of that away. That's how good he is in this movie. Oh, I read this a little bit ago. If you want to get blown away and really pissed off at just how movies that are great don't make enough money at all in the box office and stuff, according to Wikipedia, this movie made about $9,200 at the box office. That is sickening. Just reading that. Are you serious? This movie made barely $10,000 at the box office. And this is a phenomenal movie versus all the bullshit we get all the time at the box office that just goes into the hundreds of millions. Like, oh, it's very annoying. Now, one thing I really like about this movie, even though it is found footage, this is a film that I think a lot of people who hate found footage could watch and really enjoy. There's not a lot of shaky cam in here. It doesn't even really feel like found footage, except for the very beginning, like when they introduce that, these were Vice journalists, and they explain the whole story of Patrick, their co-worker, and he got a letter from Caroline, his sister, and she was sober living. He ended up calling the place, and they said that she moved out of that community, out of the country, with everybody else to like some isolated community. I forget where exactly it is set in this movie. I'm guessing in South America. I'm just guessing that because Jonestown was in South America. It was like Guyana or something like that. And then they decide that they're going to go out and cover this story. And then, except for like the ending where you get like the text that says what happened to the survivors and what happened there and stuff. Besides that, this doesn't feel like a found footage movie. It doesn't feel as found footagey, if that makes sense, as a lot of other movies. So even if people hate found footage, give this movie a chance still. So a helicopter's arranged for them, for Sam, Jake, the camera guy, and Patrick, Caroline's sister, to be flown into, I'm guessing again, in South America, but whatever. And then they are immediately greeted by a bunch of guards with guns, fucking automatic rifles and shit, and they're asking for their passports and stuff. Now, I really want to see this in a film because you never see it. That smart, intelligent person like I and a lot of us would be, that you wouldn't, first of all, you wouldn't even be on this helicopter ride, because just hearing that story that she went to live outside the country with a commune, any normal, smart, intelligent person, I'm sorry, is going to just go, she's in a fucking cult. Like, that's the first thing that's going to come to mind. But let's say that doesn't come to mind right away. Until you get on the helicopter, you get here, and then you see the place real quick. After guns are pulled on you, and they're asking for your passports and shit. Then they get to see Caroline at the front gate, and they see the inside, how it looks. And it does look nice. Cults tend to do that. They do tend to look nice. All their communes that they hang out at and they isolate themselves in. That's the whole point of a cult. Make it kind of appealing at first so people come, then trap them into staying. But I just want to see a character, man, that gets to that front gate with them, pulls them aside real quick and says, so this is a fucking cult, right? I'm out. Like, I'm going home now. And then they would say something like, no, what do you mean? I mean, we have to check this out. We came all this way. I'll be like, no. This is when I leave. This is a fucking cult. When have you ever been around a cult that goes well? I'm going to be the smart guy in this situation, go home to hang out in the living room and watch a movie. And then when you guys get back, let me know how it all went. And then they say, all right, whatever, man. Let that character go. The events unfold as they do, and then in a mid-credit sequence or something, you see that character chilling in this living room, having a beer or something, watching a movie, and then he gets a call or something and saying, I fucking told you. Like, something like that. So I'm not thinking of writing a script anytime soon. So if anyone sees this and is writing something, feel free to take that one for free. Throw that in there. Throw in a smart-ass person. If you're making a movie about a cult, that recognizes it as a cult immediately, and just no argument, no discussion, just says, no, I'm out, I'm done. Leaves and survives the entire film. Take that one. If not, in a few reincarnations and different lives and stuff, maybe I'll eventually get to do it myself. Now, I love when, after they finally get past the front gate, the point of no return, where I would have been way out, like I said, when they go inside and they actually start seeing the commune and Caroline showing them around and everything looks really nice. Like, it would be a great way to live if it was sustainable. But like I said earlier, it's just not, because you're just always going to have, no matter how small your group, you're always going to have a few dickheads that are going to fuck it up for everybody. And it's going to implode from the inside out. And that's just why cults don't work. And that they're bad. Too. That's another thing. They don't do good stuff. But it looks really nice. And they did put a lot of work into doing all this. Like, there was even somebody, like a professional on cults, that I heard once say, if you ever want a great worker, hire a ex-cult member. Because they're used to doing just intense labor for like 12, 15, 16, 18 hours a day. Like working for the cult and setting up buildings and building chairs like for their leader and like all that type of crazy shit. Which this video might get a little long, guys, because now we're going to be talking about cults too on top of the movie. And I'm saying this just for the premiere, because then after that, you know the length. But during the premiere, you don't know how long the fuck we're going to be here. But I think it's really cool how they point out later in the movie, when they start noticing and not everything is good here, that it was all planned. And that's exactly what Jim Jones did too with Jonestown. This also takes from part of the Jonestown story where, if I recall correctly, it was a congressman or a state senator or something like that went down to Jonestown to check out the conditions and make sure people weren't being held against their will, because they had family members of people in the cult that they had to be isolated from. They couldn't talk to their families, regular cult shit. And they actually went down there kind of just like this. Like, this is very, very inspired by it. It's very obvious when you know the actual events. And the congressman or whatever, he ended up getting killed. And that's what like led to them killing themselves. And it was a lot more people in the actual events. I think it was close to 1,000 in the mass suicide. It was like 900 and something. And I think I remember reading that it was the biggest loss of American life, like not in a war, like civilian life, until 9/11 happened. I mean, that's crazy, man. like almost 1,000 people, all mostly killed themselves, but it was basically just forced murder. Like, these people were forced at gunpoint to be drinking fucking poison, or were just flat out shot dead if they refuse. So, I mean, they can call it mass suicide all they want, but yeah, I love the way when they're being shown around, and yeah, I just circled back minutes ago successfully, mind you, and then it's shown later that it was orchestrated that way for them to talk to the exact people they were talking to the more devoted followers who would say that they're perfectly happy here and this is the greatest place on earth. The right people who would lie the best and say that this place is perfect, so there's no suspicion. But come on, man. I mean, I feel like anyone with, logic, like fucking common sense, like, would take one look at this place and say, this is a cult. Like, come on. Like, is anyone really, in this day and age, especially nowadays, I mean, Jonestown and stuff, it happened in, the 70s, late 70s, but then you had the Heaven's Gate cult and shit that was, 2000s? I mean, you have cults go back to the beginning of time. It's really scary how stupid and impressionable some people are. Like, the majority. And that's the most terrifying thing of all. And that's why I think this is such an effective movie. Because it really puts you with these people in this situation. And that's why the found footage aspect of it's utilized excellently here. You feel like you're there with them. And then just seeing what unfolds in just a day. Like, they just spent one day here, so, and they ruined everything. Imagine just, like, if they were chilling there for a year, what they could accomplish. The main point I'm trying to make is that these people seem way too comfortable when they're first unpacking in their cottage they're given to stay and stuff like that. No one just sits down immediately and says, this is like a dangerous situation here. We should probably get our friend Patrick to talk to his sister and try to get her out of here, like, stat. But then when you first hear, like, when they're walking around and start doing the interviews, and you first hear Father's voice on the loudspeaker, and just his voice, man, Gene Jones kills the role of father in this movie. Like, he makes this movie so tense at times. Are you serious? It's unreal, like, the tension in some of the scenes in this movie. But they're walking around, and it is beautiful. Like I keep saying, like, it looks nice. And you got the little woman there. She's watering the garden, like they're growing food and shit. They're talking to people for all different ethnicities. White, black, doesn't matter. Age differences, that doesn't matter. And they're all seemingly getting along here. Again, I mean, hearing someone being referred to as father from everyone would be a huge red flag for me, but that's me. But all the interviews are great because they make sense the first time you're watching this movie, and even on rewatches, that they do seem really genuinely happy there. But after you've seen this once and you know how calculated this was, and they're mostly putting on an act here, it still works on that level too. Because when you watch it, you could tell that there's a little bit of suspicion to all of them. Like they're putting on a show. And I think all that's handled great. Like all the acting from all the cult members here is great in this movie too. No one does a bad job acting wise in this film. So then they're talking to the young woman from Australia. She's like in her 20s. And she was an artist in New York for a while, and then she ended up moving here. And she gives her whole opinion on this place. But, that's another thing. Even if this was orchestrated, some of them did believe this. A lot of them did. They really did love being here. And they happily drank that potion and shit. I mean, maybe not happily. They probably had a few reservations, right? They've trusted this guy in this community forever now. It sounds right. And a lot of the things they say, and that's the scary part about cults, it sounds good. Like when she says, we don't need the internet, down here. We don't need to communicate through satellites. We talk in person. We grow our own food. We all work together. That's all great stuff that would make the world a much better place. So of course people are going to want that. Most of us, if not all, should want more of those things in our society. So a lot of the stuff that they preach in these cults, and this video is going to be half or more about just cults, and the rest about the movie. I mean, how can you talk about this movie without talking about cults and shit too? But they ask her and say, like, what about your family? And she says, this is my family now. And they got so many people to just turn their back on their entire families and just leave. And then they mentioned the donations a little later. And this happened in Jonestown too, in a lot of cults. People would sell their houses, their cars, their family shit and stuff and donate it to the church or donate it to the cause and the cult. So the freaking father here is getting rich as shit. He's sniffing coke in the end before he blows his brains out. And that's also a nice little detail that I like that Ty West threw in here, because Jim Jones started using drugs too. Even though it was all against everything he preached and that there's no drugs down here. And I'm glad that they included that. And the whole thing with Caroline also, that scene like near the end where they run into her and she's obviously fucked up in some way. And then one of them even said, I think it's Jake, says to Sam, it says like, and Caroline looked high as hell. Isn't that the whole point of this place? That you're not supposed to be doing drugs and drinking and stuff like that? So I like that they included those things too in this movie, because it's the same stuff happened in Jonestown. Like, Jim Jones was taking amphetamines, like, to keep working, like, hard and, like, doing his speeches and shit like that to keep himself going, and taking Quaaludes and shit to come down later at night. So I like how they stuck those little details in here. And they interview a few other people, the black guys, and they were saying they came from a hard life in a bad neighborhood, and now everyone works together again. Sounds great. But I laugh because, and this cults, and they're terrible, right? We all agree. And so races and everything, it all is. Having said that, I can't watch a scene in movies, really, when black people start playing basketball without immediately thinking of Airplane from the 80s, the parody movie, when he starts saying about when they were working like in a village, like as missionaries with him and his girlfriend, and he starts saying they were teaching them, you know, sports and stuff, and they really took to it fast, and they're showing the tribal members playing basketball like amazing pros. I can't help it. Like, ever since I saw Airplane, anytime I see a scene with a bunch of black people playing basketball well, I think of that. So I love the scene when they go back to their cabin, Sam and Jake, and Sam ends up giving a little talk to the camera about what he feels about this place so far, after what they've seen so far. And he says, like, it's not like how he would want to live, but now he's starting to see the appeal of it a little bit. And that just shows you got a good cult. Like, well, if you got somebody already after a few hours seeing like, I can fucking see it, man, you got something good going there, because you already got this guy thinking. He says, like, a lot of people, I think, you know, came here out of desperation, and he's absolutely right. Like, that's the cult 101, is that you feed on the desperate, the people that don't have much in life, or they lost everything they had, they have nowhere to go, and bring them in. They make the best cult members. Basically everything after he turns the camera to Jake for his opinion, you can't sum it up all better, what I've been trying to say so far about cults, than how he says it. Everything I agree 100% with this guy. That's why I said earlier, Jake's like the character I relate with the most in this movie, and I think he's the most logical. I mean, he's still not the fuck out of there already. So he's not as logical as I would like him to be. But I love that whole thing there. That whole little thought speech that he gives. Because he's right. And that's what I said earlier. Like, when he says that this, as a place for like a month or so to get clean or like do some thinking and stuff, this is perfect. And I agree. But it's not a sustainable place. It's not a sustainable lifestyle to be living in a place like this. And he just brought up one example, you know, with the elderly people there and the medical unit that they have. While impressive, it's not going to cut it in a severe situation, like if someone's dying. He's right about that. And that's just one example of a lot of things that can go wrong, including almost everybody in your cult committing suicide or being forced to. I'm sorry, but then you get called outsider by somebody in a place like this. Are you goddamn kidding me? You don't leave right then and there. That would be my like fifth limit already. I'd be out of there. Not even here to begin with. Guy at the end of the movie that survived, like I said. But come on, with all of these red flags, the guy gets called father by everybody. That's just a cult right there. If you got somebody calling you father, and especially when you throw religion into it, when you throw religion into religious cults and stuff, which most of them, if not a very large portion of them are, because it's a very good way of manipulating people and using their faith. Her with the little kid and that scene later on, that is so hard to watch. That is such a gut-wrenching scene when we see Jake running from the gunman who's like, everyone's dead already. He's trying to find survivors to kill, and he goes into one of the buildings and he finds the mute girl and the mother, and he hides underneath one of the beds and says, no, you'll hide. And then the mother just slits the daughter's throat while she's holding her, saying, it's all right, it's all right. And then the guard comes in and shoots her in the head dead. Dude, that is a hard scene to watch. The same with the scene when Caroline kills Patrick, her brother, like near the end of the movie, when she sticks him in the neck with whatever drug it was and stuff, and he's screaming, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, we can still leave. Like, and the camera's just static, like in one position, recording, like she set the camera up. I don't know why she recorded herself doing it, I don't know, whatever. All of that is very hard to watch, and it's very tense, and it's very just disturbing, and that's where this movie excels. Just from the interview we're about to hit here with Father to the end of this movie is just off the charts eeriness. You want to take like a shower after watching a movie like this, because it's just like, oh man, like, because then again it kicks in to your head that this happened and does happen all the time, but this particular story like basically happened, and with like 9 times the casualties. I think they say at the end there's like 100 and something that died here. There's not over 900 at Jonestown. So it really hits hard and like very detailed too. Like getting a lot of details to the real events close in the movie, like we do here. That'll hit home. And it does with a lot of the stuff later on in this film. And I love it. So then they're preparing for a party that night right after the interview, like at dusk, at nightfall. And Caroline's talking to them like while they're setting up for the interview. And then she says, like, she hands them a letter for them with like more information about their organization, and maybe it'll help with some of his questions, blah, 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 blah. And she says, sure, like when she's thanked, sure, we have nothing to hide. That's another just red flag there. Like, anytime somebody says, I have nothing to hide, that fucking person or group or whatever has something to hide. Like, I guarantee you that. Every single time. So just hearing her phrase it like that, I mean, I know it's supposed to make it a little ominous, which it is, but it's, again, man, I'd be out of here. This is turning into like one of my horror survival guides, but intertwined into a discussion video, like how to survive a cult. Alright, so then we finally get to see Father for the first time, and again, just from here on, once he's introduced, like on screen here, Gene Jones, his performance is just unreal in this. But let me also point out another tip for you. Anytime you're somewhere with a group of people and one person who's already been like kind of worshipped walks into a place and this is the fucking response that they get, come on, it's time to leave, right? It's a cult. But it's not, I mean, I guess, right? I don't know. Now, this is where your mind really can go wild thinking about this and get stuck in a rabbit hole. But let's go there, shall we? When he starts sitting down and all that crazy applause settles down and he starts talking, the way that his performance both gives off the cult leader vibe so well, it also really, in a warped way, makes you think this guy's a pretty nice guy. And that's the sick part of cults, is that the cult leaders always seem like a pretty good guy, or woman, or whoever's the cult leader. And they capture both of that perfectly. Both with just the writing in this whole entire scene with the interview, every scene with this guy, basically. Every scene with Jones. Which is, I think, coincidental that his last name is Jones and Jim Jones is based off of. That's cool. But the way that they utilize that reality of that's the way a cult leader works is that he believes his own delusional thinking. Like, he really believes that he's helped these people. And maybe in some warped way he has. Like, getting, like, some people out of bad lives and bad, areas, and just giving them food, giving them a place to live. Maybe he did have good intentions at some point. And that's where it really goes down the rabbit hole of psychology and all of that. And we don't have time for that shit. Just the whole interview is fantastic. And then when he starts, talking about the media, and that's why he doesn't like getting interviews, and he starts saying that Sam immediately puts a spin on it, like a negative spin, and trying to look for that angle that he can exploit. And the way that he throws it back at Sam by mentioning his wife, who's pregnant with their first child, and that throws him off completely. Like that little cat and mouse that they play with each other a little bit. Excellently done too. But oh man, this is where the movie really ramps up and really starts affecting your mind. And you really start thinking about all these things and thinking that this really happened and this happens all the time. And despite all of that, these people, some of them, they seem happy. So who I to judge them? But at the same time, it's a fucking cult. Run, motherfucker, Then after that whole amazing interview, Chris is talking on camera a little bit, saying that, like, he got lost. Like, during all that, he didn't even get through, like, a quarter of his questions. And that this father guy just had an energy about him that just kind of just, like, blinded him. And, like, he couldn't think straight. Which, I could see that. And that the scene plays out like that. That's how great the writing and the acting is in that scene. Especially, of course, from Gene Jones. Is that you could feel yourself getting lost in all the bullshit he's saying, because you can't discern how much of it he actually genuinely believes in and how much of it is bullshit. And there is a difference. There is gray areas between those. Then you have the mute girl, Savannah, and her mom handed them a note saying, like, please help us. And that happened in the actual events too, when the congressman went down with some NBC reporters and stuff to make sure it was all good there and people weren't being held against their will. Somebody slipped one of the cameramen a note. So I like that they included that too. Then you have the mom, like, pleading with them, saying, like, just take my daughter, and him saying, like, we don't have room on the helicopter, we can only go back ourselves. And she's pleading and saying, take my daughter. And then, like I said, later on, that she slits her throat. And that whole scene, man, is so hard to watch. So they wake up the next morning, like 5 a.m. or so, getting ready to leave. And, yeah, the mom, again, is saying, take just my daughter. Take my daughter with you, please. And Caroline's trying to do damage control and stuff over everybody, saying, don't worry, this is fine. Like, just people don't come here often, so some people are getting a little freaked out. People want to get the hell out of here. I love how they try to portray how Sam feels since he's going to be a father soon. That's why he cares deeply, like, as he does, to get the girl out of there if he can. Jake's the one saying, like, there's nothing we can do. It's not our problem. But, like, you could see Sam wants, if he can do something to save the girl. And I like how that ties into him being, soon to be a parent. I think all of that's great also in this. So then Jake goes to the helicopter to try to ask and say, could we bring, this girl? And the guy saying, no, we can't bring anyone except for who I brought in, you two, that's it. And then somebody shoots the helicopter pilot. And then Jake's running around, and then we just get the best scene in the movie here with the whole speech from Father. They're going to have people come looking for them, and they're going to burn their places down, and they're going to kill us. So why not just die with dignity and just drink the potion? And the fact that he throws in that some of the young ones or the infants or something that have already been given the concoction, that's such a chilling line, man. And seeing like some of the shots in a little bit, when you see like a mother like holding her kid and they both died from the poison, and just all the bodies and stuff, it's really fucking effective. Like, this is a depressing movie, like, but it really is effective at scaring you, because this happened, first of all, and the way that it's written and the way that it's acted, the way that everything is directed, everything about this movie is just fantastic. But oh, what a chilling line that is about the kids already have been given the potion. Like, oh man. And then they're all stirring up the potion and they're filling people's cups up, and he's giving this whole speech to, let's choose our own deaths, and like, we can go out kindly and quietly, we don't have to like go to war or anything like that or get taken down, and this is our final test. All warped shit that it's so sad that so many people believe this, that they gave their lives for this. Like, it's really fucking effective at being a horror film. And isn't that the whole reason we watch horror? I think this is just an amazing example of just a straight up great horror film. A film that makes you feel horrified from what you're seeing. Such a good movie, man. I'm glad I picked this. And a huge reason that it's so effective is that Ty West doesn't shy away. Like, he shows you everything here. He shows you the nurses going around with the needles taken out, but the syringe that they shoot the poison into the infants' mouths. They show you little kids sipping their cups. All things that you don't want to see. And he just shows all of it and doesn't shy away from it. Oh, man, yeah. And that scene, like I said earlier, with Caroline sticking her brother, Patrick, with the drug, whatever it is, and just holding him, and him freaking out, screaming, I don't want to die. And oh, dude, that's so hard to watch, too. Like, this is a very fucking disturbing movie. The more that I'm thinking about, like, actual events and, like, cults in general, and getting those thoughts out and talking about it, this movie hits harder and harder every single time that I watch this. I think that's another testament to how great this movie is. So Jake ends up going back for Sam, who's pretty much the only one left alive, except for a few stragglers that the black dude's going around taking them out, with Father, and he gives a nice little speech again and stuff. It says that he's just crossing over to the other plane, and he wants to go out peacefully, and he sniffs like 2 big-ass lines of coke and stuff before that. Again, I like how they include that from the actual events, the drug use that went on in this cult. But he takes the gun out and blows his fucking brains out, and it looks fantastic. Like, it's not ultra gory or anything, but it's a good freaking gunshot wound. And Sam and Jake try to get the hell out of there, and then that disturbing scene happens with Savannah and her mother. I'm not talking about it again. Oh, and then Caroline, when she runs into them, she douses herself in fucking gasoline or whatever and lights herself ablaze. That's a fantastic sequence too. Everything from the interview to the end of this movie, the filmmaking, the editing, the acting, the feeling to it, the impact it has, the tone of this movie, the atmosphere, the creepiness, like this movie just went up like a lot more. Like, we're just rewatching it again now. Every single time goes up. They end up getting the greatest fucking luck in the world when they're hiding from the guy with the machine gun taking people out, that one of the other ones decides to shoot that one dead and then says, get out of here, I'm burning this place down. Like, get out of here now. And then they were able to get up, run to the helicopter. The pilot's still alive somehow. I mean, we see that earlier, that he wasn't killed. But I mean, how do you fuck that shot up? Especially if you're trying to take away their transport. No one checked that pilot wasn't dead. Like, I don't know about any of that. And they take off in the helicopter, and then we just see some shots of parts of the place burning and just the bodies on the whole commune, and it's a friggin' disturbing ending shot. And we see both their reactions. I'm sure they are going to cherish the shit out of the rest of their lives. Man, but they lost Patrick. That sucks. That he had to die like that and not get out of there with them. Like, that is such a heartbreaking scene, man. That's gut-wrenching. That his sister killed him like that. What an effective movie. What a fucked up world we live in, that cults actually exist and this shit happened and happens all the time. And just Ty West is brilliant, as always. So that's The Sacrament from 2013, and a whole bunch of random shit about cults. Alright guys, wherever you're from, hope you're having a great morning, afternoon, or night. I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll get that Black Christmas shit out sometime soon in the next few days. Take care.